Two of the most affordable and most fun to drive sports cars available in the United States are actually built in Japan. You have the legendary Mazda MX-5 Roadster. You also have the Toyota and Subaru, the twins, the BRZ and the GR86. And we know sports cars continue to be a dying breed. And that's why in the past, Toyota has teamed up with BMW for the Supra and with Subaru for the GR86. But what if I told you the MX-5 and the GR86 are going to be the next twins? You can cut Subaru out. They don't need a rear-wheel drive sports car. They're all-wheel drive company anyways. Well, besides the new Uncharted, doesn't their Uncharted have front-wheel drive option while the CHR has all-wheel drive? Anyways, it's confusing. The BRZ just doesn't make sense for Subaru. But the MX-5 is essential to Miata, and a lightweight, fun-to-drive sports car from Toyota is essential to Akio Toyoda's vision and dream and his passion. So what better way to team up together? Is Mazda and Toyota joining forces to develop these next generations of GR86 and the beloved MX-5 Mazda Miata? We shall see. Now, just keep in mind, the last time we heard of Mazda and Toyota working together was for a Supra. Doesn't mean they're not, because Toyota needs an inline six for a new Supra. In theory, if it can pass emission standards, right? They're struggling with the LFA's successor, the GT3 race car from Toyota slash Lexus. Anyways, what we have here is nothing short of exciting. I haven't read this article yet, so we're going to unpack it together, get amped, and if you're excited for Toyota and Mazda to work together to create ever better sports cars, smash the living hell out of that like button, and let's get into it. Japan's best-selling car magazine, Best Car, reported earlier this year there's a significant potential that Mazda and Toyota were developing a next-gen sports car together. Okay, well, like I mentioned, the last time I heard it was for a Supra because of Toyota's need for an inline six. Now, this article is coming out of Forbes. Peter Lyon, he talks about upcoming Japanese vehicles all the time over at Forbes. All right, so we're going to see if he has any more spice to add to this story. But he's saying the cars in question are not the Supra as of now anyways. All right, but we're talking MX-5 and GR86. They talk about they have an MOU on a partnership which started in 2015. Yes, Toyota owns, I think it's about 5% of Mazda. And the new CX-5, for example, is going to be using Toyota's software through the touchscreen. And I wouldn't be surprised if Toyota is also helping develop next-gen Mazda hybrids. So we have Chairman Akio Toyoda. We know him as Marizo. That's his alias for his race car persona. He's been racing with the LFA in the past for the Nürburgring 24-hour race, GR86 in Nürburgring. He's done so many other races as well. But apparently, Masahiro Moro, this guy, this is Mazda's CEO, I had no idea he was competing in Japan's annual MX-5 media 4-hour race. So he's a race car driver too. I love that. I remember this coming out of Best Car, that many Mazda engineers were sent over to Toyota to develop or help develop the new Supra. That's what I thought it was going to be, but it could also include the MX-5 and next-gen GR86 together. And they could do both. The GR86 / Miata, as well as a new Supra / RX-9. I don't know. Who knows what they're going to call it. Initially, Toyota considered using a reworked version of the Lexus IS platform. The platform is ancient. It's still pretty decent. It's still lightweight enough, I think. It's still fun to drive. But they need something newer. They need something more modern and more capable. Now, this is interesting. Production of the two models, the next-gen GR86 and the new Miata, are expected to be carried out in Mazda's Hiroshima plant, or Hiroshima, and they will receive significant upgrades and production capacity expansion thanks to Toyota's investment. That sounds amazing. I have Toyota sales here. For example, the GR86 is only sold about 7,500 units this year, down from 9,000 they sold last year. Meanwhile, the MX-5 Miata, let's see here, has sold about 3,500. So Toyota sells about double what the MX-5 is selling, at least currently right now. And honestly, I would rather have Mazda make a next-gen sports car teamed up with Toyota than Subaru. Let me know if you guys would agree with that. If this was like an all-wheel drive rally car, I would be like, yeah, let Subaru take that over. But in fact, Toyota's taken that over with the GR Corolla and the GR Yaris. So not even Subaru's competing on like the rally end anymore. Let Mazda make these rear-wheel drive sports cars down in Hiroshima, and they're going to be built just so well and to people that already understand rear-wheel drive vehicles. So what they're doing, instead of using the IS platform, they're going to have an updated version of the current ND MX-5 Miata's platform. And they're talking about improving the 990S version of the car, which tips the scale at 990 kilograms. And that's a Japan-only spec of the MX-5. It has Brembo brakes, lighter forged wheels, a blue soft top. It was introduced in late 2021, and it uses a 130 horsepower 1.5 liter. I think Japan also gets the 2 liter that we have, and I think that might be a good segue. I want to talk about the powertrain here. Okay, this is, yes, I could still use a 1.5 liter. In fact, Toyota has a new 1.5 liter in development. Okay, a 4-cylinder, not a 3-cylinder. We have a 1.6 3-cylinder turbo in the GR Yaris and the GR Corolla, but this new 4-cylinder, 1.5 liter, let's say it could be 150 horsepower, which is more than the 130 horsepower seen in the 1.5 Miata in Japan right now. So they could still do that for other markets. But in the United States, they would just have one powertrain. That would be Toyota's new 2-liter. Not the turbo version, which that's the only version Toyota showed of it so far, as well as a turbo hybrid on the 2-liter, but it's just going to be naturally aspirated, and this engine is supposed to rev nicely. Much, much better improved in the enthusiast category, I guess you could say, compared to the more diesel-like 2.4 turbo that's seen in other Toyota and Lexus models. Taking the turbo out, of course, they could still put it back in for future models, and I think that would be incredible. That would take Mazda out of their comfort zone. Mazda's like, hey, we need the perfect balance of the Miata. Okay, the right weight ratio, just the right amount of horsepower. Okay, right now they have 181 horsepower. This new naturally aspirated 2-liter will have 200 horsepower. But this is Toyota we're talking about here. Recently, they like turbocharging a lot. So just because the standard model is 200 horsepower doesn't mean they couldn't add a Spirit Racing version in the future of the MX-5 or a GRMN version of the 86 with a turbo pushing 300 plus horsepower. That would be insane. Don't want to get my hopes up too much. Let's just get this new car out first with the base engine, then we can talk about variants after that, I guess. Peter Lyons is saying that that's not the case. They're not going to share engines. They're going to have their own engines. Okay, well, I've only talked about Toyota's next-gen 2-liter engine, but Mazda's also working on a series of engines called Skyactiv Z. And apparently the Mazda will have its own engine, both of them using 2 liters, but them using different, a Toyota developed one for the Toyota car and a Mazda developed one for the Mazda car. That I think it's obnoxious and unnecessary. It would be much cheaper and simpler if they just used one. Pick Toyota or Mazda's engine. Don't have one coming off the assembly line with a different 2-liter engine. That makes no sense to me from a manufacturing perspective. I'm sure they could figure it out so that it is seamless and doesn't cost that much. But it would just be that much easier to modify these vehicles as well if they all have the same engine instead of different engines. If they're going to have both 2-liter 4-cylinders with both 200 horsepower, why don't they use the same freaking engine? That would be the dumbest thing ever, in my opinion. And some of you guys saying, hey, I want my Mazda to be all Mazda. I want my Toyota to be all Toyota. And yes, I guess that scenario would work for you. But let's be real. It will never be all Mazda or all Toyota if they've developed and co-developed this thing from the ground up. Just because it's built by Mazda doesn't mean it's 100% Mazda. It's co-developed and co-engineered with Toyota. So just use one engine here. That makes no sense to me to change it. And then, you know, this talk about hybridizing it. get hybrids out of here unless they keep it extremely lightweight and unless they can have a manual with it. Otherwise, I don't want any electrification of these basic, fun to drive, pure sports cars. Yikes. Keep electrification out unless they nail it perfectly. But I have no evidence that anyone has proven to have an amazing manual transmission hybrid. Now, they're saying Toyota was happy to jump in with Mazda here because the MX-5 was also co-developed with the Fiat, or the Fiata, as a lot of you guys call it, the Fiat 124 Spider. Those had different engines. So, Kirk, if those have different engines, why can't the Toyota and the Mazda? Well, Fiat really wanted their own car. That's the thing. That's the stubbornness of these car companies and their cultures as well. They want their own signature. And so like all the Italian brands would scoff at the idea of having a Japanese engine in their car, even though the Japanese are essentially building the car for them. But they want their own heartbeat. And I get it. It makes sense to me. But when you have two different 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinders producing the same output, that makes no sense to me, right? It's not like one's going to be turbocharging this time around like the Fiat was last time around. All right, and then lastly, Peter Lyon says, look out for the new MX-5 and GR86 in mid-2028. That's probably about right. We know that a next-gen GR86 is in the works, and we've either heard two things. This article is saying, hey, it's in conjunction with Mazda, which makes the most sense at this point, which also means one of two things about this vehicle. Either the GR86 is going to get smaller or the Miata gets bigger. But since they're basing it around the 990S, a platform, the GR86 is likely to get smaller. So that's one scenario, Mazda, Toyota working together, which is the likely scenario. And then the other scenario we've heard is that Toyota would be building the next-gen GR86 all in-house, and Subaru would just be piggybacking. But as we go forward, it makes less and less sense for Subaru to have a rear-wheel drive car. I don't think Toyota doesn't want Subaru involved this time. All right, in my opinion, they can work on EVs together. Great. You can have your Trail Seekers and, BZ Woodlands and stuff like that. They can co-develop and, co-produce EVs together, Subaru and Toyota. Mazda, though, has fun to drive cars. That is their DNA through and through. And the MX-5 is the pinnacle, the heartbeat of the brand. And now we have the GR86 going to be absorbing its fun character, and hopefully it gets a drop top too. But don't be surprised if a part of the deal was Mazda saying, hey, if you're going to co-develop with this vehicle with us, you're going to have a hardtop only. You're not going to take away from the MX-5 Miata. You're just not going to copy and paste it. That's a possibility that the GR86 remains completely coupe, hardtop, all right, where the RF and the ragtop MX-5 still live on. Let me know. Do you think Subaru's completely out of the equation at this point? I do. Do you think Toyota and Mazda will use different engines like this report is claiming? I think that is crazy, especially when they're like the same thing, a 2-liter, 200 horsepower. Time will tell. I can't wait, though. I think what we're going to see here is nothing short of incredible. Now, they need to get the pricing down. The GR Corolla now starts at $40,000. The MSRP of the MX-5 Miata starts at $29,000. It needs to stay around $29,000 to $30,000 for entry-level prices on the next-gen MX-5. Where does the GR86? The GR86 used to start around there. Yeah, it's just a little bit more. Okay, so I think this is going to be the price point. They need to stay around $30,000 for entry level price, maybe $35,000. You can add, maybe Brembo brakes or something like that. You guys know. All right. And then top out at $40,000 for the BBS Recaro Brembo brake package, for example, or the hard top out at $40,000. That's where the next GR model would take off. Right now it's a GR Corolla. Is it always going to be the GR Corolla, or is the Celica going to take its spot? All right, I think the GR Corolla needs to stay around because they could have five different GR products. All right. And this is kind of, I've been talking about this a lot lately, ever since driving the final edition Supra. Watch that video. I'll have it for you guys in the description. Think about it this way. Think about it in price point too. Now the GR Yaris and the GR Corolla coexist in some markets. The GR Yaris and the GR Corolla, let's just put them in the same category of price. $40,000 to $50,000. All right, so let me explain here. We're gonna have the new Miata, let's just say GR86 here in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. And you're gonna have the GR Yaris slash GR Corolla here. We'll just put, and then you're going to have a next gen Supra. All right, then you're gonna have the GR Celica slash MR2, and then you're gonna have the new GR GT. Okay, these are all, this is a video I made earlier this year. These are all going to be sold at Lexus dealerships, and you're going to have your flavor, your price point, and performance option of what these vehicles entail. Okay, front, rear. This is front all-wheel drive, front, rear. Okay, mid, rear. Okay, and then you're going to have front, mid, rear. Okay, and that technically this is front, mid, rear as well. Okay, what do I mean by that? Front engine, rear wheel drive, but the engine's located behind the front axle, so technically it's a type of mid-engine vehicle. All right, this is a more traditional mid-engine vehicle, the new Celica coming out. And yeah, it's gonna be absolutely bonkers to see what these vehicles are capable of. Okay, let's just say 200 horsepower. I think they want to keep the GR Yaris and GR Corolla around 300 horsepower, even with the new engine that they'll put in it with the next generation. All right, this is probably going to be around, well, 400 horsepower, 400 horsepower. And then we've heard all sorts of rumors with this twin turbo V8 here on the GR GT, and you can plug in hybrid, you can hybridize it. So it's anywhere from like 600 to 1,000 horsepower. Okay, that's just a huge range, but there's going to be different variants of this car. All right, technically, the GT3 version would only have like 500 horsepower, so maybe I'll put 500 here. Okay, so absolutely bonkers what Toyota's cooking with right now, and using Mazda here to make the most of it. Next gen GR86, next gen GR Corolla, with how much money, research and development, and how much they're racing the GR Corolla, there's no way there's not going to be a next generation of it. There's no way. Okay, so this vehicle's not going anywhere. If it does get discontinued, I will be hugely disappointed if they do that with the next generation Corolla. Next gen Corolla should be coming late 2027, maybe early 2028. All right. And that's when a lot of these vehicles are going to start coming out in the late 2020s here. All right. So I'm super amped, super excited. Should I say Supra excited? And Mazda, get Mazda involved because their sports cars are nothing short of incredible as well. Thank you guys for watching. We can put, maybe we put RX. I know it wouldn't be called an RX-9, but we'll put a placeholder here. They could absolutely get in on this inline 6 platform, Toyota and Mazda together. So holy cow, guys, I am excited. More sports cars coming with the relaxation of emission standards here in the United States, a relaxation of CAFE. This is perfect runway for Toyota to just be like, let's go. Let's not hesitate. This is our last chance. Europe is crapping their pants. They don't know what to do about emissions. It's not feasible over there. China, forget China. Just make EVs for China. And the rest of the world still wants combustion engine sports cars. Very few people, especially the more expensive you get, very few people want their fun to drive vehicles as an electric car. Okay, and like that's the same thing with motorcycles. Very few people want their motorcycle to be electric. They want that character, that feel, that integration, and that mastery over the machine. With electric, it's just everything's easy. It's boring. It's fast, but it's easy and it's boring. It's essentially training wheels. Doesn't mean it can't be fun at times. Look at my review of the Ioniq 5N. Car's incredible. Okay, so but for the most part, internal combustion. Manual transmission is better more times than not. I think for me, manual transmission is great, like 400 horsepower and under. Okay, once you start getting a ton of power, you're going to need some assistance for the average driver. I'm a pretty average driver. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the comments. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. And long live the Miata and GR86. Peace.